Hi everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm Audencia. So I'm gonna go ahead and start my ed talk. I found the book really interesting because it's true that creativity and the Common Core, when you think about it, you're thinking of, at least when I think about the Common Core, I think of guidelines as practices that we're supposed to follow that I feel are very specific. So I feel like there's not too much room for creativity, and yet creativity is something that every classroom should have. So when I started reading the book and how they explained how creativity and the Common Core actually go hand in hand, it was interesting. It was interesting to me, especially as a future math teacher. Sometimes I think many teachers find it very difficult to incorporate creativity with math, but I think it can be done, and the book is showing us that it can be done. I also thought it was very interesting how they go in to describe creativity, because I feel like many of us believe or have different opinions of what creativity is, and so reading as to how they define it and how they talk about the way in which creativity means being like asking questions and having students come up with different examples, like that in itself is creativity. And I never really thought about that. When I think of creativity, or when I used to think of creativity, I used to think of art and pictures and building. But it was it was really it was really interesting to see that even having, say, students build blocks like that, they can be creative in so many different ways. And so again, I liked how they connected the creativity and the Common Core, because without that content that is being taught, creativity can't fully be established. So I liked how they talked about how those standards guide the creativity. So say you have math, and obviously the Common Core is set up to make students critically think, not to only memorize concepts now. So for instance, in math, you want them to critically think. So say you're giving a lesson on probability, you don't want them to just memorize it's a ratio. If you have, you know, a coin, automatically it's 50%. No, you want them to maybe get creative and think of how probability can be applied into their everyday experiences. And by just giving them that question, like, where can you see probability in your everyday experiences, you're giving them the chance to be creative. But this in itself is going back to the Common Core. You're fulfilling those guidelines that the Common Core is establishing for you. I also found it interesting when they talked about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, because this reminded me of when I was in school, and how it's true that maybe sometimes I feel like teachers think that by rewarding people with, say, like the beignets, the pizza party, you think you're doing a good thing, you think you're motivating your students, and like they said, you are for so much time, because eventually they're gonna get tired of it and they're not gonna want to do it, and you're taking away the fun of it. And it goes with anything. I mean, if a student loves math and you're constantly giving exams or comparing them to other students, they're not going to enjoy it as much as if you find other ways to motivate them, other ways to praise them. And I also thought it was interesting how they talked about praising their ability. No, excuse me, not their ability. Praising I said it again. Praising their effort over their ability, because you don't want them to get the wrong idea and think that by praising them in their ability that they're smart and that they're going to do it to be that if they do that they're smart, or they're not smart. You want to praise their effort, that they tried, because then if you praise their effort or tell them that you like how they did something, they're going to want to repeat that action. So I think that's very important. So again, I think the most important thing is to find the balance between the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, because I mean, let's be realistic, not all students are going to feel fond of math or reading. So sometimes that extra push is necessary, but we need to find how much we should do, because too much might not make it might not make it worth their time, or it's not going to work for them. It's not going to want to make them learn it. So just be careful with how much extrinsic motivation you use. And it's the end of my ad talk. Thank you.